And now the radical left and the Democrats escalate their campaign of violence and terror against Tesla dealerships. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, insane weekend. No other way to put it. Absolute bedlam and insanity broke out, especially on Saturday, for this nationwide, clearly well-funded, national coordinated campaign, Tesla Takedown Day. And across the country, Democrat activists, and it's clear now, this is directly tied to the Democratic Party, in city after city, whether it was in New York, whether it was in Miami, whether it was in Flagstaff or in Phoenix, Arizona, I don't care. Name your city, name your state. Democrats, elected Democrats showed up, egging on the mob to target Tesla dealerships, where many of them literally ran wild. Showrooms were taken over. People were prevented from being able to have access to Tesla dealerships. In Manhattan, hundreds of protesters, far left to me, Tesla terrorist protesters, showed up and put their bodies on the ground, on the roads leading up to the Tesla dealership, so nobody could go in, nobody could go out. They effectively blocked any access to that Tesla dealership. But what was even more concerning, windows were smashed, cars were vandalized, and literally now people are getting assaulted and beaten up. So here is now the absolute latest. In Arizona, in Flagstaff, a 61-year-old woman who has asked the local media, it's caught on tape, you can see it, it's on video, but she wants to keep her name anonymous because she fears for her very life now, was driving in her Tesla car. Out of the blue, some lunatic began to harass her, try to cut her off, began to chase her. She had no idea what the hell was going on. The car eventually boxed her in, and then this left-wing lunatic got out of his car and began to punch her in the face, began to hit her repeatedly through the open window. Her crime, because she drove a Tesla. This is now happening more and more frequently across the country, where now people are getting beaten up, attacked, assaulted, literally for the crime of driving a Tesla. As she told the police, and then later in interviews with the local media, I don't buy a car to make a political statement. I bought a Tesla because I think it's a great car, and it's very fun to drive. And for me now, to be beaten up, to almost be killed, to be chased, to be boxed in, something is seriously wrong with our society. And I agree with her. I agree with her. In Miami, at a mall, parking garage, Tesla owner on camera caught a deranged left-wing activist taking a glob of gum, chewed a lot of gum, and then, I kid you not, just jammed it against the door and causing $3,000, destroying the door handle system completely. In other parts of the country, and I'm sorry, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't mean to be disgusting, but you need to know what's happening. An individual, another one, a crazy left, a moonbat, was seen near a Tesla, was caught on camera. When he saw the Tesla, he went nuts. He then defecated in his right hand, right there on the spot. This was on the street. And then smeared the feces on the Cybertruck, shouting and screaming, F Elon, you effing Nazi. At every protest that you saw on Saturday, they called Elon Musk a Nazi, a fascist, and sign after sign after sign were urging the assassination of Elon Musk. These protesters, egged on by elected Democrats, were calling for the murder of Elon. Others held signs showing Teslas being burned, Tesla's windows riddled with bullets. And according to them, Elon Musk is a Nazi and a fascist. This car, this vehicle, is a symbol of Nazism and fascism, and that Elon now represents a mortal threat to democracy. Not only must he be killed, but Tesla owners and Tesla drivers must now be shown to be utterly humiliated for putting money in the pockets, because of buying the car, of this so-called a neo-Nazi who they say is exercising a coup over the government. I'm telling you, people are now being beaten. Cars are now being lit on fire. You are now seeing Tesla cars across the country now are being keyed, their tires are being slashed. Many Teslas now are literally being burned. There is now arson attack after arson attack in Las Vegas. Remember, we talked about this recently. An individual came. His name, he's now been identified. He has been arrested. His name is Paul Kim. He attacked a Tesla dealership, came in with a gun, shot out all the surveillance cameras, brought Molotov cocktails, and then torched car after car, Tesla after Tesla. When he ran out of Molotov cocktails, he then took his gun and began to fire into the Tesla cars. The police say it is an absolute miracle that nobody was shot and nobody was killed in this absolute rampage. He now apparently has been identified. As I said, his name is Paul Kim. He has been arrested. If you go on his social media, he has deep ties to communist and pro-Palestinian causes. This is the hard, radical left. And they are not going to stop. In fact, they are being funded. They are being organized. George Soros, it has now come out, is now paying. This is literally paying protesters and paying people to go after Teslas and to gun for Elon Musk. Elon Musk is now a marked man. And the protesters are saying it's no longer a question of if, but when they are going to take him down and assassinate him. I want you to listen now to Elon Musk. He was at a Supreme Court rally in Wisconsin. I want to talk about this story later. It will have tremendous national ramifications. It will decide that key battleground state, and with it, maybe even the Congress, the control of Congress. But before I get to that, this is Elon at a Supreme Court rally in Wisconsin saying the political violence, the violent terrorism, the hatred that is now being unleashed by the media, by the Democrats, by the radical left against him, Tesla dealerships, Tesla cars and Cybertrucks, they've now gone mad. Roll cut 5. Mike.
Isn't it shocking how much violence and hatred is coming from the left? I mean, isn't it supposed to be the party that they claim to be the party of empathy, and yet they're burning Teslas and shooting up dealerships and calling for the death of the president and me? I'm like, guys, you know, this is insane. Like, they're gone psycho. I mean, it's really like, I totally understand if somebody doesn't want to buy a product. Yeah, it's up to you. It's a free country, but you don't have to burn it down. Okay? But much. That's somebody else's car. Leave it alone.
Well, he's right. He's completely right. It's a destruction of property. Look, this is now getting to a point. This is threatening social stability. It's putting Americans' lives at risk. It's targeting a great company. It's targeting, obviously, a very prominent, wealthy individual like Elon Musk. And as Elon wrote on X, saying, first of all, there are no cuts to Social Security and Medicaid. That's a lie. The only thing that we're cutting is if you consider getting rid of fraud. Getting rid of fraud is not cutting Social Security or Medicaid. More importantly, he said, if you're part of a national movement, organized and funded, calling for the death of an individual, i.e. Elon Musk, that's illegal. And that these people should be charged, they should be arrested, and they should be sent to jail. Do you agree? All of your calls. Next. 618 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. This is from Larry on Messenger. Jeff, yesterday morning, I was going down to Brockton, and I noticed in another lane that there was a red Tesla. I was about to give that person driving a thumbs up when I saw lettering on the rear that said, F. Elon. The left is now getting a taste of being scared to support someone. Well, now you almost have to put something. I'm not saying you should, don't get me wrong. But for a lot of people, you have to put something, either I hate Trump or F Trump or I hate Elon or F Elon, almost as a way to try to protect your car from being destroyed or vandalized or keyed or, God forbid, being put on fire or, arson, being torched. Or if you're that poor woman in Flagstaff, literally, being boxed in and being punched in the face. And by the way, it's happening more and more now. Tesla drivers are literally being attacked. This is not, some, 1 out of 345 million people. It's becoming increasingly more and more and more frequent. And Tesla drivers now, for the first time, are saying they are afraid. They're afraid for their vehicle, obviously, but they're afraid for their own personal safety and that of their family. It has gotten so bad. Listen now to this. On social media, it's a phenomenon now where you have tens and tens and tens of thousands of Tesla owners who, because Tesla cars or Tesla vehicles have cameras on them, and they're like, my car just got vandalized. Can you identify the person in the camera? I've been looking at them this morning, just, saying, is that possible? And I've seen, I don't know how many. And they're from all over the country. And they're like, look, I'm going even slow. You can make the video actually go slower. I didn't know that. Anyway, they're like, I'm slowing down the video so you can get a really good look at the person. And they're, forgive me, they're urinating on the car. They're smearing their own feces on the car, which is to me insane. They're spray painting Nazi swastikas. They're keying cars. And it's the rage. That's another thing. There's a guy with a hammer, and he's just going nuts, and he's just tearing into a Tesla like a rabid wild dog. So you can see now that the propaganda is working, that they're being whipped up into this frenzy. And, they don't realize many people who drive these Teslas probably didn't vote for Donald Trump. Many of them are Democrats because they were told for years to buy EVs because they say it's good. They were told it was good for the environment. So it's now Democrats attacking Democrats. They're starting to devour their own. But the scariest thing, it's not just the Molotov cocktails. It's no longer that they're swarming and mobbing these Tesla dealerships or shooting them up. But when you go to these protests, it is sign after sign after sign. Kill Elon. Murder Elon. Elon's face in the crosshairs. Take down this Nazi. Save our democracy. And you see Elon's face in in other words, assassinate him. To save our democracy, you have to kill him. They are now openly calling for the murder of Elon Musk. And these are rallies that members of the, Democrats, I'll play you some cuts. Democrat assemblymen, elected representatives in the state legislature in New York are, talking to these people, and there's signs, a sea of them right in front of them, calling for Elon Musk to be killed, or for Teslas to be burned, or for Teslas to be shot up. And they're not denouncing any of this. They're egging them on. Just to give you a sense, this was in Seattle, but this occurred all over the country on Saturday. I could play different cities. Here is Seattle, just a little taste of what these anti-Tesla protesters were chanting in Seattle. They were swarming the Tesla dealership. You couldn't sell or buy a car. They literally just broke into the showroom and then began to do sit-downs and threatened to burn and blow up Teslas right there and then. Roll cut 8, Mike.
Democracy must be protected.
That's awesome.
Democracy must be protected. Democracy must be protected. Democracy must be protected.
And of course, some people driving by are honking their horns like, we love it that you're taking over this Tesla dealership. Now, they're saying Elon Musk wasn't elected. Yeah, but Donald Trump was. And Donald Trump appointed Elon to oversee Doge. What's the problem? That's how our government works. That's how our system works. What, was Fauci elected? I mean, I could just go on and on. And what, was Merrick Garland elected? Was, that's how our system works. You elect the president has an agenda. And let me just say this, last point, because I want to go and start, the lines are jammed. 617-266-6868. It used to be, even if you voted against the party that won, or the candidate that won, that we would give that guy 100 days to show us what that person can do. The first 100 days, like a bit of a honeymoon. Like, well, he's got 3 months. Let's see what he can do. No. No more. Now they head straight for violent revolution. Straight for political terrorism. They don't even wait for the 100 days. Hell, they don't even wait for 2 weeks. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, the Department of Justice, they need to come down hard on every single protester that is committing acts of violence or terror or vandalism, because this is spreading. It's not getting less, it's getting more. And apparently in Minnesota, the Tesla dealers now are complaining because Tim Waltz, Tampon doesn't want to protect the dealerships. He's not sending any police. In fact, he's mocking Teslas and Musk. He's almost urging them to continue their protests. So what they're saying is they go every weekend. There are more and more and more protesters. And now several of these owners are saying, I'm telling you, somebody is going to get killed. You blow up these cars, you light them on fire, you shoot up these Tesla stores, someone's getting killed. 6:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Okay, Two questions. Number one, Tesla takedown on Saturday, Tesla takedown day. Is this left-wing terrorism, Tesla terrorism? And should they now be treated as domestic terrorists? Number one. Number two, if you're a Tesla driver, I'm getting a lot of emails, a lot of texts saying, Jeff, I'm afraid. Jeff, my car was keyed. Jeff, I was yelled at. I was screamed at. I was called a Nazi, a fascist, a white supremacist just because I'm driving around in my Tesla. Have you been a target of vandalism or arson or political terror? 617-266-6868. Are you now increasingly nervous to simply drive in your Tesla? I want to hear from you. Lines are jammed. Let's go to Dave, our Western correspondent, constitutionalist in Pennsylvania. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Jeff, well, I hope I start your Monday off pretty good because WPXI here in Pittsburgh decided to take down the footage of what happened. I had a friend of mine, he witnessed the whole thing, Jeff. This happened up at the VA property up in Oakland, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, like a section of Pittsburgh, like Mattapan, Boston. Well, the VA parking lot is considered federal property, and I believe, I'm not sure, Jeff, from what I heard, that the Tesla SUV or vehicle belonged to a VA police officer. And guess what, Jeff? They're blessed federally. So these two knuckleheads, the he or the he-she, that literally I think they had fireworks on them. This is how dumb they are, Jeff. The VA cop who was sitting in the vestibule of the hospital saw them walking over there, and they're going to be charged with suspicious and nefarious activity on federal property. I saw the video clip, but all I know is that those two he's or he-she's or it's, whatever you want to call them, Jeff, they're going to be charged federally. And the U.S. attorney in Pittsburgh, Western Pennsylvania, is a hardcore conservative, so they're starting to crack heads, Jeff. But I saw the video, and I'm like, I got to call Jeff with this. I can't believe it. But, of course, WPXI, the liberal affiliate, I think it's ABC here in Pittsburgh, took it down already. So the media's a culprit, Jeff.
Oh,
along
no question.
With the deep state Democrats.
No, Dave, no question. But, Dave, just what exactly did these two people do? Did they light a Tesla on fire? Did they try to light a Tesla on fire? Because you mentioned fireworks.
Yes, they had cherry bombs or some kind of firework. You know, liberals, they're not that bright. They'll set themselves on fire, like what happened, I believe, in South Carolina, Jeff. It was reported about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. But they weren't lighting it. But Jeff, when you got two freaks with purple and green hair looking like they just came back from a Cyndi Lauper or a Billy Idol concert, which I like Billy Idol and Cyndi Lauper, they were literally going into the garage. Now, where the police park their vehicles, their POVs, they're literally having a security area. And this guy had, I think, a lime green colored Tesla. But it was literally one of the VA police officers' own vehicle. I think it's a sergeant or a lieutenant. But he has a view of the garage from the parking area, Jeff. Because that's federal property, Jeff. You know what I mean? The VA hospital, that's federal property. So these two idiots or morons or its or whatever you want to call them are going to be charged federally, Jeff, last I heard. But, of course, the liberal media here in Pittsburgh took it down, WPXI.
Incredible. Incredible. Dave, Elon now says we have a problem. He says this is no longer just a couple of crazies here and a couple of crazies there. He's now openly said Soros is funding this. It's national. It's well organized. It's well funded. They hit over 200 Tesla dealerships on Saturday, and they're not going to stop. They're going to escalate and escalate and escalate. Do we now have a domestic terrorism, Tesla terrorism, left-wing terrorism problem in America?
After these Congress people who was inciting this violence and charge them with insurrection and throw them in the gulag, Jeff. All these big mouth Democrats that want to run their mouth and rhinos, because I'm sure they're out there, they can't stand Trump. They need to be charged federally, Jeff. And you know what, Jeff? I love Pam Bondi. She's really pretty. I love Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Not so much Bongino. But Pam Bondi needs to get her pretty face off Fox and start cracking heads like Tom Holman is. And you know what, Jeff? Like I said, she's an attractive lady. I love Pam Bondi, but she's got to start cracking heads, Jeff, or she's going to be accused of start being a part of the deep state, Jeff. We're within the time frame here. She should go on TV. Look, they're doing great with the Tren de Aragua and the MS-13, but they got to start going after these Democrat politicians and hold them accountable too, Jeff, because you know they're the ones that are inciting the violence.
You're dead on. You're dead on. Dave, as usual, you're not 100, you're 1,000% correct. Dave, thank you very much for that call. You've got Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. By the way, another scandal involving her. You're not going to believe what she called Byron Donalds, because he's a black man who married a white woman. I'm telling you, you wouldn't believe what came out of her mouth. But anyway, she's the one that openly is one of the top organizers of this. So you have a member of Congress openly inciting the assassination of Elon Musk. So she's involved. AOC is involved. Ayanna Pressley's involved. Ilhan Omar, some people did something. She's involved. Rashida Tlaib is involved. You've got, obviously, Elizabeth Warren, Chief Fullable. You've got Bolshevik Bernie Sanders. So it's starting to come now from the nucleus of the left wing of the Democratic Party. There's no question now. So you're dead on. This is now being tied directly to the Democrats. They are now openly supporting political violence, left-wing terror, and we're the insurrectionists? Are you kidding me? 617-266-6868. Jenny in Burlington. Thanks for holding, Jenny, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Jenny.
I just wanted to mention a couple of things. I remember a few years ago something I learned on your show, that there was a law passed by Obama who gave protection to media who spewed lies and propaganda, that they couldn't be sued or touched.
The Smith-Mundt Act. He repealed the Smith-Mundt Act.
Is that something on Trump's to-do list to reverse that?
It should be. I've been urging him and people in his inner circle, they've got to restore the Smith-Mundt Act, because it barred, it made it illegal for the media to engage in propaganda. And Obama undid that. And if you notice, the media ever since then, think about the last, say, 10, 11, 12 years, they've gone off the rails. When you just think about how bad the media has been behaving and how they've been lying, brainwashing, indoctrinating, blatant misinformation, disinformation, whipping people's emotions up. It's really been over the last 10 to 11, 12 years. And that goes directly to what Obama did when he essentially overturned, through executive order, the Smith-Mundt Act. So if I were Trump, I would restore it immediately.
Give information, educate people about that situation, and then actually have a report card or a to-do list or a commercial, even if he creates Trump TV or says something to this knowledge of, not opinions, but just the facts, where a lot of people don't know who George Soros is, or that there are paid protesters, or that they're spewing lies about, Social Security cuts, and then have like a checklist or a goal that's like a report card, like a commercial, where people can read it on their time or something.
Jenny, could you imagine, let's say, Jenny, can you hang on, please? I want to ask you a question. I want to come back to Jenny. We're up against a hard break. But I want to ask Jenny, and frankly, all of you, Kuhner Country, to me, the $64,000 question. All right, I want to go right back to Jenny in Burlington, 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Jenny, This is to me the $64,000 question. Say you attended a Kuhner country rally. Okay? It doesn't matter what the issue is. Illegal aliens in Massachusetts. We want a state audit of the Massachusetts legislature. Whatever the issue is. If you saw a sea of signs and banners calling for the outright murder, let me just say of Michelle Wu or Governor Maura Healey or, whatever, take your pick, okay? Any of, whatever, Elizabeth Warren, whatever, just, kill her, shoot her, burn her, assassinate her, what would your reaction be? Would it be, yeah, let's keep going, yeah? Or would you say, whoa, I don't think I want to be a part of this? Honestly, what would your reaction be?
And I would just do, that's a public threat, and I don't want to be involved in that because you're threatening someone's life and calling for chaos and division and so forth. I would not take part in that whatsoever.
See, to me, this is really the story. I mean, yes, they're burning cars. Yes, they're burning dealerships. Yes, they're shooting them up. Yes, they're targeting. A 61-year-old woman was beaten. Almost beaten to death. I mean, you could go on and on. Yes, this is all horrible. Please, it's horrible. But now and I don't mean it's one crazy or two crazies. You got to see the signs. You got to see the banners. I mean, they're naked now. It's just, shoot them, kill them. Like someone's got to kill them, take them out, assassinate the guy. And the Democrats are just egging him on. That to me that's why Elon he's telling Pam Bondi, he's telling Kash Patel, he's telling Trump. He goes, no, guys, I've been dealing with protests my whole life. This is different. When you start calling for as he put it on X, the organized attempt to assassinate or kill someone, he goes, that's a crime. That's it's illegal. And it's extremely dangerous. Jenny, last question to you before I let you go. Are you concerned that someone, A, is going to get killed, and B, God forbid, that someone may try to assassinate Elon? Are we now going down that dark path?
I mean, I'm very concerned for him, and if anything, he's been nothing but an angel on Trump's, right-hand man, along with J.D. Vance. And I think that they need to also play the commercial or make a commercial of, I think it was Brett Baer who asked what was his greatest fear at night when he goes to sleep, or something to that effect. And he paused and said humanity. I mean, not his own life or threatening his family or anything. He just said the diminishing of humanity, that, Americans not having kids. That's his greatest fear when he goes to bed at night. I mean, that's very humble of him. And I think that they need to really educate by commercials, especially the commercials that always seem to grab my attention is when the TV goes silent and you're like, what happened to the volume? And whether you're paying attention to the TV or not, and then you see a large question on the TV and you read it, something to that where it makes you stop and read it. And you could say, does this look peaceful to you? And show Tampon Tim or that, reenact something where the person is getting hurt, a guy beating on a woman at 61, big man. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They need to show more and more of Trump's accomplishments and Elon's accomplishments, and how they're turning on each other. And I think that Trump needs to stop taking the busy work, because we were keeping them busy because they couldn't keep up with all of his accomplishments. And now because they're crying, it's giving us busy work so he can't expose his accomplishments. And I would like to see that go back. So hopefully it does.
Jenny, thank you very much for that call. Really good call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Listen now to Elon Musk Again, he was speaking at a Supreme Court rally. I'm going to get to this later. A huge Supreme Court election in Wisconsin, which is going to decide in many ways the control of Congress. Are you going to say, wow? What? It's about redistricting. All right, I'll get to all the details, but it's the most important race of 2025. It's going to decide Wisconsin as a battleground state and probably 2 seats in Congress. And so that's why Elon is going all in to get a conservative judge elected to the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. So he was there speaking at a rally. The election's going to be tomorrow, and he's interrupted by a anti-Elon, anti-Tesla protester. Roll cut 6, Mike.
Yeah, it's really wild. So, like, I mean, it was inevitable that at least a few Soros operatives would be in the audience. Give my regards to George. Say hi to George for me. USA, 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 USA.
So Elon's calling out Soros, and Soros is the one funding all this. What I don't get is how the hell does this guy keep getting away with? I mean, Soros, and now his son, who's increasingly taking over the empire. How can you keep funding these kinds of acts of terror and treason over and over and over again, and nothing ever happens to this guy? 617-266-6868. I got to say this about Elon. Despite all the attacks on Teslas, on the dealerships, the arson, the vandalism, the terrorism, the threats on his life now, the organized attempt to have him assassinated, he's still keeping a sense of humor. I mean, in that way, he's very Trump-esque. You know, you could see why the two of them get, I mean, it's not just that they're billionaires and, you know, all of that. You can see in some sense, their personalities are similar. You know, what would really bother a lot of other, I mean, I don't know about you, but a nationwide campaign calling for me to be dead, yeah, I would, you know, I wouldn't be in the best mood about it. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's just trying to laugh it off. And he's cool, he's calm, and he won't stop. I mean, look, he was in Wisconsin for that big key race. He won't stop. 617-266-6868. Eddie in Maine. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Good morning, Kuhner, man. Eddie, Sebago Lake, Maine. How we doing?
Very good. How are you, Eddie?
Very well. Thank you for asking. My big question is, why doesn't President Trump have George Soros and his son arrested and charged as domestic terrorists, what they are, and put a freeze on all their assets? And whatever damage is being done to Tesla and their dealership, it comes out of their money. Why don't they do something like that? I just don't understand it myself. And are we ever going to live long enough to start seeing some of these politicians being hauled into court for all the stuff they did to us? It's getting old after a while. You hear the same thing over and over. All these billions and billions, but no heads are rolling. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, Eddie, look, to me, this is I talked about earlier, the $64,000 question. Okay, this is the $1 million question. I've been saying this now for a long time. I think Trump has had an incredible, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is in office. I've never seen an early presidency like this, ever. Everything he's done has improved the country significantly. The one complaint I have, when are we going to start to see the arrests? Now, I get it. They're cracking down on Trent or Aragua. I love it. They just arrested a top MS-13 leader on the East Coast. Kash Patel, Pam Bondi were there for the big press conference last week. I love it. That's on the criminal illegal aliens, magnificent. But I want these corrupt Democrat politicians and these treasonous billionaire donors, like Soros, as an example, I want them arrested. Like, I'm sorry. You know, I want handcuffs. I want, frankly, Michelle Wu in handcuffs. I want Healy in handcuffs. I want Hunter Biden in handcuffs. I want to see these corrupt politicians now in handcuffs. Like, enough is enough. You know, talk is cheap. And they keep finding scandal after scandal, abuse of power after abuse of power, but nobody does anything. So until and unless they start making arrests, my fear is all of this is going to be for nothing. We're going to have a great 4 years. It's going to be great. But then they'll just come back and destroy and undo everything. And you don't even have to get all of them. I mean, of course, I'd love it if they got all of them, but just even putting, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them in jail, it would send a chilling effect. See, that's the point. It's the deterrence. Then they would say, you know what? No, I'm not. Ooh, I don't want to do that. No, why? Well, look at, whatever. Look at Fauci. Fauci went to jail. I don't want to go to jail. Nah, I'm not going to do this sanctuary city stuff. Why not? Well, look what they did to Michelle Wu. Imagine if they arrested him, right? Like, whatever. You know what? I'm not going to take that money. Why? Look what they did to Hunter Biden. Look what they did to the Biden crime family. No, I'm not going to take money. God, you could be in jail for 20 years. I'm not going to go to jail for 20 years. So just arresting a couple of them would send a powerful, chilling message. But if there are no consequences, they're going to keep doing it over and over and over. They're not going to stop. And then we're going to be right back where we started. Eddie, am I wrong?
It's the same story over and over again. I want to see some heads roll. I feel you feel the same way. You know what I mean? They have to do something, especially the Soros family. They ought to be behind bars now, a long time ago, and all their assets should be frozen and give it to Elon Musk, whatever damage is done to his property. Probably doesn't want it anyway, but you know what I'm saying?
Eddie, thank you very much for that call. Look, Hungary, which is his native country, he was born and raised in Hungary. Hungary has an arrest warrant out for George Soros because he's done what he's been doing to us, he's been doing to Hungary, and frankly to many countries in Europe, especially Central Eastern Europe, okay? That's like his playground. The expression in Eastern Europe is the former Soviet empire has become the Soros empire, because that's how much money he's got invested and how many politicians he controls in that part of the world. The Hungarians want him behind bars for life. They say this guy is a traitor, to the bone. So we don't have to even try him here. Just arrest him and extradite him to Hungary. The Hungarians will take care of him. Like, do that. He's protected by the Democratic Party. Ultimately, it's a protection racket. As long as Soros keeps funding them, giving them oozles and, oozes of money and buckets of money, as long as he keeps pumping all of those hundreds of millions of dollars, they are going to protect him to the death. And that's why you need an FBI director and an attorney general who's not afraid to take on the swamp. 617. Because basically, it's like taking on corrupt gangsters. Think of the Democratic Party as a political mafia. And once you understand that, you understand everything. And the media is simply their PR or their communications arm. So it's a mafia with people who will just mouth their talking points and protect them to the end. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Are you worried as a Tesla driver that your car is going to be vandalized? Has it been vandalized? Have you been harassed? And to the larger audience out there, because not all of you drive Teslas, obviously, are we now witnessing the rise of left-wing terrorism? I think we are. I think this is domestic left-wing Democrat terrorism. And already now people are being burned alive. Cars are being torched. Dealerships are being shot up. 61-year-old women are being beaten. And the fear, and many police are now saying this, there will be dead. There will be blood. People will die. The only question now is, it's no longer if, but when. 617-266-6868. Brad in Brookline. Thanks for holding, Brad, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Brad.
Yeah, do you know the end of times? I mean, things are just so bad. I mean, with the Tesla riots, the rampant anti-Semitism, the freaks, the perversion, the veneration of Satan of all people. I mean, is it the end of times coming or what?
I don't think so. Brad, I could easily make the argument that the 1930s were much worse than today. The 1930s and, of course, World War II. I mean, if you were going to make an argument for the end times, you got Hitler, you've got Stalin, you've got 50 million dead, you've got 6 million Jews thrown into the gas ovens. You could make the argument that Satan, personified, is Hitler and Stalin. You've got nuclear weapons. We had to drop those 2 bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The fear is that Hitler would get a bomb. Stalin eventually got the bomb because of traitors within our government who gave the Soviets our nuclear secrets. And that's what gave them the ability to build the bomb. But what I'm saying is there are many other times in history, and I could cite you many more, the Black Plague, which wiped out 1/3 of Europe's population. I mean, you look to your left, the person's dead. You look to your right, the person's dead. And no one has any way of stopping this. So, no, Brad, it's bad. It's bad, but it's nothing like what we experienced in the past. No, I think what you're sensing is this, Brad, and this is why it's so unnerving. We're starting to see the breakdown of civilization and social order. Like that's what's bothering people. Look, again, it's 7 o'clock now or 7-ish in the morning. I'm not trying to be gross. But when you've got a grown man walking on the street in broad daylight who then sees a Tesla and you can see the video of him. He starts shaking violently. His body is shaking. He gets so upset just at the sight of a Tesla that he then pulls his pants down, puts his right hand, on his butt, forgive me. He defecates. I don't know how the guy can defecate on command like that, but let that go. The guy defecates on his own hand, takes the right hand, it's full of feces, and he starts to smear the Tesla vehicle as he's yelling and shouting Nazi. Now, there was nobody in the car, but like, Nazi, fascist, kill him. Like just the sight of a Tesla just sets him off. Another one, a person vomited on a Tesla. You put your finger down your throat. So another one, they just saw it and they just forced themselves to vomit and they just threw up all over the car. You got a guy just walking with a gun out of the blue into a Tesla dealership. This was in Las Vegas. Paul Kim. You got to see the video and the eyewitness testimony. It's chilling. And he just, boom, that camera, boom, that camera, boom, he takes out that surveillance camera. And then he walked up in front of these cars, and these are beautiful $70,000, $80,000 cars. This is one of the best cars that ever been made. I mean, I'm not a big, electric vehicle guy. But, my nephew drives one. My sister drives one. I know many people who've driven a Tesla. They go, Jeff, these are really good cars. And great technology. It's a marvel of automotive technology. And he starts lighting Molotov cocktails? Like he's waging some kind of a partisan war against the Nazis in Belarusia? during World War II. And he starts throwing these Molotov cocktails, just throwing them on a car. And the car's been burning up. And he goes to the second one and he torches it. He goes to the third one, he torches it. And he's run out of Molotov cocktails. So then he pulls out his gun and he's just like boom, 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 shooting up the cars. And then when he's arrested, he's like, he thinks he's a hero. And the left deifies him as a hero. The Democrats deify him as a hero. And based off of that, they said, let's keep going. That was a couple of weeks ago. And they're like, no, we're going to do it every weekend now. So they're destroying not just dealerships and cars and beating up 61-year-old women in a Tesla, but they now want to destroy one of the greatest American car companies ever. This is an American car company. Every car is made in America with and good paying jobs for American workers in plants and factories all across our country, dealerships all across our country. This is insane. Look, it's like that woman who was beaten up. If you want, I can read you the quote. She said, I just bought a car. Like, what's happening to our society? I buy a car, and if I buy a car, I'm making a political statement? And because of the car that I have, I'm now literally being targeted? I'm driving, I got a madman coming after me, and I'm like, what did I do? Did I cut him off? And she was on like road rage. She's thinking, did I cut I didn't cut anybody off. And then he boxes her in, gets out of the car. Her window, it's Arizona, so it's warm. Her window was open. And he starts punching her in the face. 7:19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. I just got a message from Larry on Messenger. And he says, Jeff, you're dealing with these, I got to clean it up a bit, these bat poop, crazies, these moon bats. And he said, Jeff, that's why I always volunteer to protect you, to be my guard, basically security guard, provide security at my rallies. And I just messaged him back and I said, I know, I can't thank you enough. He's done it now for I don't know how many years. And I'm being honest with you. In fact, Sandy and I were just talking about this last night. And again today, this morning. There are a lot of crazies out there. Okay, let me just leave it at that. There are a lot of crazies out there. And it's a dangerous business. And you meet a lot of fanatics, especially left-wingers, full of hate. And you can tell human life to them is very cheap. It is very cheap. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very, very quick. Listen now to, this was basically, as Mike put it to me, a flash mob. So this is, again, Seattle, and they're targeting a Tesla dealership. They're protesting Tesla's, Elon Musk, and they just come out of nowhere, and they just descend on the street, blocking traffic. Roll cut 8A, Mike. It's, I'm telling you, and when you see them, you can tell it's rent a mob. You could tell they go from Black Lives Matter to Antifa to Columbia University or whatever other campus on behalf of Hamas and the Palestinians. It doesn't matter what radical left-wing cause it is. It's the same people circulating everywhere. And then they just take Soros money. They're professional agitators and professional activists. 617-266-6868. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and a happy, dreary Monday to you.
Happy Monday to you as well, Mark.
Well, Jeff, I have to say, you really want to know what's really getting under my skin now? Actually, let me rephrase that, Jeff. You know what really pissing me off right now is that just over 4 years ago now, okay, a man gave an innocent speech in front of hundreds of thousands of people, if not 1 million people, on a day called January 6th. And days later, that man was indicted, impeached, and charged with crimes for saying what he said on that day, which was totally innocent. And a couple of days later, Jeff, hundreds of people were arrested, and they spent 5 years in a prison in D.C. Now, these politicians, and I'm talking high-up elected officials, not just your run-of-the-mill local officials. I'm talking high-up elected officials are calling for violence, and yet nothing is done. I mean, these people on January 6th, Jeff, that got arrested did nothing compared to what these people are doing to Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And quite frankly, Jeff, if Pam Bondi doesn't crap or get off the pot soon, the American people, Jeff, might have to take matters into their own hands. What say you, my friend?
Or get another attorney general. You know, in other words, like, come on. Like, get somebody who's willing to do the job. Fish or cut bait, right? I mean, and look, it's not just that they're calling for quote-unquote violence, just to reinforce what you're saying, Mark. Jasmine Crockett, congresswoman from Texas, okay, a lunatic, left-wing lunatic, came out and said, I guess her birthday was 2 days ago, okay, March 29th. She said, my birthday is March 29th. You want to give me a gift? Take Elon down. Kill him. She openly said, kill him. Put him in a coffin. These people are sick. And she was one of the key organizers of Tesla Takedown. Burn the dealership. Burn the cars. Shoot them up. You see a Tesla driver, you go after that Tesla driver. So you've got a member of Congress who's now, in fact, a rising star in the Democratic Party. You've got articles that the left is pushing. I'm talking Associated Press, New York Times. And this is the question. Who of these three is the next superstar literally, superstar, that's the term they used, of the Democratic Party? And they said, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, or Michelle Wu. That's what they're saying. It's 1, 2, or 3, but that's, oh my God, the left loves them. The Democrat base loves them. They love them. They love them. And one of them, in fact, all three of them have called for violence. But one of them in particular said, kill Elon Musk as a birthday gift. Kill him. But they spent all their time going after Donald Trump. And notice, one last thing. I don't want to get I'm going to give you the final word, Mark, I promise. I don't want to get too off topic. But the same Judge Boasberg, to show you how coordinated and frankly sick and deranged the whole thing is, the same judge that now has ruled that criminal illegal aliens, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, we lost Mark. We just got cut off with Mark, but he messaged me saying, Jeff, please, I want to say one other thing. And I think it's a very good point. He said, Jeff, what's going to happen when the first time one of these protesters messes around with the wrong Tesla owner and gets his or her ass kicked, or God forbid, possibly killed? Then what will the left say when that happens? Well, you see, that's my fear. You nailed it. Violence always begets more violence. And you I'm getting more video now being sent to me by this great audience about what happened to that 61-year-old woman that got beaten up because she was driving a Tesla by this crazed lefty. And and the way he was chasing her. And apparently, anyway, I don't want to say, I want to see the video first, but he's lucky people are not dead on the road. He went after her like a bat out of hell. And he chased her down. He boxed her in. She's petrified. And she's like, what did I do? Oh, my God. Like, what's going on? And he's like a madman. And her window is open. Again, it's Flagstaff, Arizona. It's hot. And he starts punching a 61-year-old woman in the face. He's beating her nonstop. You're a Nazi! You're an effing Nazi! And this is the kind of hate, the fear, the hysteria that they are now pumping up, whipping people up with. It's because of the nonstop media campaign, the Democrats, the lies, that Elon is going to cut Social Security, Elon's cutting Medicare, Elon's kicking veterans out on the streets, Elon's taken over the government, it's a coup, he's a fascist, he's going to impose a Nazi dictatorship. In fact, to be honest with you, I'm telling you right now, this is the first poll question I have ever given out in my, how many now, 12, 13 years that I've been on the air here in Boston, okay? The Kuhner Report on RKO. I've never had a poll question like this. I don't know. I usually lean one way, either I'm a definitive yes or no, or, worst case scenario, well, yeah, it's close, but I lean this way, or a little bit, but probably that way. This, I don't know. I asked Sandy. And she said, I don't know. So I'm going to ask all of you. It's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Who do you think the left now, right now, at this moment, who does the left hate more? A, President Trump? B, Elon Musk. God is my witness. I don't know. I really don't know. As I said to Sandy, if you even asked me this a week ago, if we polled, if we put this question out, if we polled you a week ago, I would still say Trump. But now, after the last week and after this weekend, I don't know. I don't know. And I think that's why it's such a great poll question. So I'd like to hear from you. Remember, not if we go back by, years or months, it's Trump, no question. But I'm talking now, right now, okay? Today, Monday, 7:36, March 31st. Who does the left hate more? A, President Trump. B, Elon Musk. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in national ER. You can also vote via X. Again, I was very active on X last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report. KUHN is in national ER. I want to read one text and then go right back to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. It's from 603. By the way, you can text us 70470, 70470. And you have to see the protesters. I mean, you want to talk about a motley crew. No, really. Like, ooh, what losers. Seriously, what a bunch of losers. They look like freaks. God forgive me, but I'm telling you. They look like it's like they sit around in their mom's basement all day. And let's go, it's like a rent-a-mob or rent-a-riot. And then Soros will hand out $20 an hour. And they go, okay, I got to pay for my weed. Or really, whatever. I gotta pay for my Grubhub. Okay, let's go out there and trash a Tesla dealership, or let me go and key a car, or let me go smash some windows. Let me paint a swastika on a Tesla, and I can then take a shot on my phone, a screenshot, and show it to Elon. Sorry, and show it to George, to Soros. Okay? That took me 3 hours, $60. Jeff, this criminal activity and acts of leftist domestic terrorism ends when law enforcement finally cracks down and these morons start getting arrested, indicted, and prosecuted. If you've seen footage of the kinds of twits who are committing these crimes, let's just say that these aren't exactly the types of people who would do well in jail. When these pencil necks start finding themselves sharing a jail cell with Big Bubba and come to the realization that George Soros' son, Alex Soros, and the Democrats aren't coming to save them, this garbage will come to an end. We're dealing with left-wing activists who over the last several years have been convinced that there are no consequences for their actions as long as it helps the political left. You're a genius, 603. Bingo. That's exactly been the problem. Because there's been no consequences. No one goes to jail. No one pays a price. No one goes for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years and does some hard time. They just keep doing it over and over. And now we've created a Frankenstein's monster. Because now they can beat up old ladies. Now they can start defecating on cars. Now they can start throwing Molotov cocktails and torching cars. Now they can literally call for the murder and assassination of Elon Musk at their rallies. Signs, a sea of signs and banners. And nothing. Literally nothing. If they can do that to Elon, who's the wealthiest man in the world, the right-hand man of the President of the United States, the man who just literally spent a space shuttle to rescue our astronauts, who owns some of the most powerful, influential businesses in the world. If they can do that to Elon Musk, what the hell can they do to you and me? They're empowering a rampaging, dangerous leftist mob. These are like the modern day brown shirts. They're domestic terrorists and political thugs who, by the way, get a job. I'm with Elon on this, as he said it to them. Get a job. Stop sitting around taking Soros money. Go out there and get a freaking job. Do something with your life. Agree, disagree. Heather in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Heather, and welcome.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you? Hey, I'm just happy I don't own a Tesla, Heather.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Either I'd be in the hospital because somebody beat me up, or the whole thing would be on fire. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I agree. So I have a couple of comments, questions, or whatever to make. So I agree that they need to start making arrests for, the corrupt politicians as well as, everyone involved in these stupid Tesla protests and stuff. However, I want to play devil's advocate and say, I'm wondering if they just want to have all their I's dotted and their T's crossed. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're...
Heather in Rockland. We're going to go right back to you, Heather. You were making your point. You want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. You want them to dot their I's and cross their T's. And then, of course, Mike heavy on that gun, cut us off. So please pick up where you left off, Heather.
That's what I was saying. I'm hoping that that's what they're doing, is making sure that they have a solid evidence, have all the evidence that they need to make sure that they can get a conviction. I'm hoping that they just don't want to just go arrest these people without having enough strong evidence against these people to actually make them suffer the consequences. Do you know what I mean? Like, some of those not arrests, but, the stupid lawsuits against Trump, they were bogus. I don't think they want to do that. I'm hoping that's the case, that they don't want to, do arrests without actually having, them serve the consequences. And as far as your poll question, I'm still going to say I'm leery on, I don't know who they would hate, but I would say Trump. And the reason why I say Trump is obviously because they don't like Trump, but Trump is the one that hired Elon. So I'm going to say they probably still hate Trump more.
Interesting.
And it's just so stupid. It's so stupid. These people, I can't understand I just can't understand the hypocrisy. It blows my mind, the stupidity of these people. I just can't even, I don't get
Heather,
it. I really
Heather,
don't.
You said it, and I think that's the word. Let me underline it, stupidity. Because when you hear them, and it's not just their chants and their slogans, but when they're actually interviewed, they're so mind-numbingly ignorant and obviously misinformed. They're being lied to. So, again, they keep going on, not to beat a dead horse here, but they keep going on about he's cutting Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. No one's Social Security is being touched. Or Medicare, or Medicaid. Elon had to go on X. He's like, for the 1,000th time. I don't have the power to touch any of these programs. We're not touching any of these programs. The only thing we're touching is fraud. So if you consider fraud a cut? So in other words, you're going to defend fraud? These people are nuts. Or you ask them, well, okay, how is he a Nazi? Really, how is he a Nazi? And they go on about, well, at this speech in CPAC, he gave a Hitler salute. And I'm like, don't you see? He was making fun of you guys. Don't you? Oh my God, are you people stupid? It's unbelievable. But, look, I think, honestly, Heather, how gullible, how ignorant, how dumbed down our population is becoming, and how they so easily resort to violence. And, and when you interview them, these are, many of them, they're university students. Like that, and there's some of them are in our elite universities. And you ask yourself, how'd you graduate high school? How the hell did you get admitted into any college? Never mind one of these elite colleges. It is truly frightening what public schools and these universities, these Marxist communist professors, how successful they've been in brainwashing and indoctrinating so many of these people. Because they're foaming at the mouth. And look, my fear is someone's going to take a shot at Elon. I think there's no question now. I've never seen this, where in rally after rally after rally, they're not just openly calling for him to be murdered. It's how many signs, how it's so prevalent of literally saying, kill Elon, murder Elon, shoot Elon, assassinate Elon. The only good Nazi is a dead Nazi. They're just, everybody's, people who cover it say it's chilling now. How people routinely, these leftists now routinely call for the murder of their opponents. The only thing I can compare it to is to the brown shirts. They're not even hiding it anymore. And when you see all of these Tesla drivers now saying, And many of them are saying, I was a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. I never voted for Trump. Why are they doing this to my car? And you see the cameras where, they're just walking and look left, look right, and they just key that whole car. Or a guy's got a hammer or whatever, he just smashes the window. Or he's got he's got a spray can of paint, and there's that Nazi swastika. F Elon, big Nazi swastika. And they don't even blink. I don't know. I mean, really, Heather, it's scary. I'm going to tell you the truth. It's scary. Heather, thank you very much for that call. Maria in Ludlow. Thanks for holding, Maria, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you, Maria?
I'm doing okay. On my way home from a busy night at work. But I wanted to jump on here, and these people need to start being made an example out of it, because I think it's super ridiculous now. I mean, these Democrats play dirty all the time with no consequences. It's time for the Republicans to jump on board, start playing fire with fire. Pam Bondi, she needs to start doing her job. She needs to start getting these people round up and charge them with domestic terrorism, because that's exactly what they're doing. And anybody that does business with Soros should be held accountable, because he is part of a terrorist organization. And these people that do business with him, they should be liable and charged as is. They're doing business with a terrorist, they should be charged as domestic terrorists. That lady from Texas, I always forget her name, that wished death
Jasmine
on
Crockett.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, Jasmine Crockett.
She should be made an example out of it. You play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. Her punishment should be to be let go of her position and then charged with assassination against this person, against Elon Musk. Okay? Somebody needs to jump on board and stop making an example out of this, because they see that nothing is happening. They will go on their merry way and continue to destroy. And these Democrats that own these Teslas, they should open their eyeballs and realize, oh my goodness gracious, what have I done? I am a Democrat and they are doing this to me. Open your eyes. Maybe it's time to jump board and be a Republican. But these Republicans, the Congress, even Trump, they need to start doing something. Pam Bondi, she needs to start doing something. These people need to be held accountable. They are terrorists, domestic terrorists. They are intentionally harming U.S. citizens. They're destroying property that do not belong to them. Somebody needs to start pushing for these people to make an example out of it. And anybody, again, that does business with Soros, they need to be charged as domestic terrorists, because this has to end. It has to end. Enough is enough. The Democrats need to start playing fire with fire, because they're have no backbone. They're softies. They need to put their big boys on and get a grip and move on and start doing their job, what we elected them for. This is not like kindergarten. This is not playground. You're in charge of everything. You have the power of everything. You have the House. You have everything. Man, do something about it. What is wrong with these people? I wish I was in Congress. I wish they had a Portuguese like me over there, Jeff, because there wouldn't be, you F around and you will find out. I'm not understanding the thought process.
No, I agree, Maria. Look, I completely agree with you. And just to add to what you're saying, you're right. This isn't, schoolyard stuff or... we're talking now people getting beaten, people getting assaulted on the streets. It's not just that 61-year-old. I talked about the 61-year-old, but it's increasingly happening now. People are getting, literally beaten up. A flash mob. They see a person in a Tesla, a person gets out of the Tesla, and there's a flash mob. 4, 5, 6 of them. They just start beating the person, and then they completely trash and destroy the car. I mean, it's happening over and over and over and over again. And that's why Elon he's the one. He's practically begging Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, like, guys, someone's going to get killed. Not just me. You know, these are people that work for my company. They sell my cars. These Tesla dealerships, these showrooms. I mean, we're being mobbed. They're being swarmed. And it's worse. Every week it gets worse. The violence gets escalated. Not de-escalated, escalated. So like, come on. Like, what are you waiting for? Maria, I want to play something. I want to get your reaction. Because Mark in Medford mentioned this, but others as well have been saying, you know, Jeff, it's inevitable. People are going to start pushing back. If the law won't protect them, if the police won't protect them, if the Department of Justice is just going to sit there and do nothing or twiddle their thumbs, people are going to have no choice. Now, what's starting to happen is at these anti-Tesla protests, anti-Elon, anti-Tesla, like say Tesla Takedown on Saturday, there were a lot of counter-protesters. So you now have people who are pro-Elon, pro-Doge, pro-Trump, pro-Tesla showing up and saying, no, we're not going to put up with this anymore. And so they're protesting. And their numbers are practically as big as the Tesla terrorists' numbers. One of them, and you can see the video, he's a pro-Doge supporter. I think he's some kind of a comedian as well. And he's standing there, minding his own business. He's got a Trump hat and an a pro-Elon shirt. And he's so obviously he's not saying a word, but the cap and the shirt, he's pro-Doge and he's pro-Elon. Listen now to what happens. A Tesla protester, a lefty, walks up to him, slaps him in the face, and then knocks his hat off. He's making fun of him like he's got a southern accent, but he's like a redneck hick, quote unquote. They're making fun of him. These are like Trump supporters. So he's going on about how this guy has a small male private part, and how he's really stupid. And then he just walks up to this Doge supporter, counter-protester, slaps him in the face, and then knocks his Trump hat off. Roll cut 9, Mike.
Sir, we have tiny and that's why we support the
Okay. So he's like, he's saying, hey, we have tiny, you know what, and that's why we support Trump. And then he walks up, bang, slaps him in the face, and knocks his hat off. So, what the guy didn't realize is that this Doge Elon supporter is actually a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. And so what happens then is he then grabs this anti-Tesla protester and takes him right to the ground, slaps him right in the face, bang, open hand slap, and then takes him right to the ground. Roll cut 9A, Mike.
Okay. Hey, you assaulting him, man. We got that on camera. Now you're gonna go down. It's gonna be a problem for you, man.
And down he went. I mean, so he slapped him back and then took him down and pretty much rendered him unconscious. He did the, the leg grip. You put the two legs around the back and then you just squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. And eventually the person passes out. So what I'm saying is, now, it's just a slap in the face. It's just he took him down. No one got seriously injured, obviously. But we're starting to see now violence break out between anti-Tesla, anti-Elon people, pro-Trump, pro-Elon, pro-Tesla people. My fear, it's only going to get worse. What say you?
Agree with you. But I would have done the same thing. You slapped me, I'm defending myself. I'm going to slap you back harder. And this to show you that Pam Bondi and the FBI guy, they need to start doing their job before this really gets out of control. I mean, the media is not helping, and the media should be held accountable because they're in it also. Anytime they spew hateful lies or they, protest and all that stuff, they should be held accountable. Somebody needs to start making an example out of these people. I'm not understanding what's the holdup over here. If you assault somebody, you should be charged. You should have the right to defend yourself. Last night, somebody said to me, "Oh my God, I can't wait to finish my nursing degree so I can move to Jamaica. I cannot stand that this president won and Elon is doing all this." I looked at her and I said, "Let me know when you're ready to go. I'll give you a ride to the airport." No questions asked.
Maria, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you, if you drive a Tesla, have you been accosted? Have you been harassed? Has your car been vandalized? Have you been threatened? And to everyone else, because again, not everybody drives a Tesla, obviously. Are we now watching the rise of domestic left-wing terrorism? And is it now time for Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, the FBI director, Dan Bongino, the deputy FBI director, is it time for law enforcement now to start to move, charge, arrest, prosecute all of these Tesla terrorists for the terrorists that they are? Is it time to throw the book at them? And do you fear that the violence is only going to get worse? 617-266-6868. Jim in Rochester. Thanks for holding, Jim, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Jeff, first off, I believe that Elon is definitely hated more than Trump. I was at Kentucky Fried Chicken on Friday in Wareham, and two, I would say 70, 75-year-old women in a Honda Accord pull up with a who elected Elon in a circle with a line through it, total moonbats. And then I got a text Saturday morning that a friend of mine who owns a Cybertruck, very peaceful gentleman, was accosted at 11:30 Saturday evening as he was going home by two of his neighbors that didn't recognize him. A husband and wife accosted him, pulled up in his driveway. Well, before he got to his driveway, started yelling at him, followed him. And these are people that you would never expect to be that way. And they literally, the guy was fearful of his life.
Jim, I hate to even go down this road, but do you think it's going to get worse? Because that's my honest fear.
Get worse. And I think, aside from the fact that people are scared that if they retaliate, that they're going to end up in jail because they, look what happened to that Marine in the subway. He was defending people and himself also, and ended up going through what he went through. But on top of that, I just think that these people are going to keep going until there is a consequence. And unfortunately, I don't think people are identifying their enemies now. You have to know your enemy, and these people are our enemy, and this is escalating because nothing is stopping it.
It reminds me a lot of the communists. Like truly, I mentioned the brown shirts, and that's clear. But the communists operate like this. They're like marauders. They're like roving gangs and mobs, and they intimidate people, and they attack people, they assault people, they destroy property, they destroy businesses, they terrorize, persecute, and harass to instill fear. And that's what you're starting to see here. I think there's no question. And you're right, they are the enemy. Whenever I hear a Republican say we have to be bipartisan, I'm like, you really have to have your head examined. Because it's obvious now. They're out to destroy us. And I don't think they realize that Elon is almost as beloved as Trump. And if something should happen to Elon, if they should go, try to pull what they tried to pull against Trump, if they try to assassinate the guy, and God forbid if they're successful, I think the country's going to explode. I think people are going to be livid. And I don't know if the government will be able to control the backlash. So the radical left and the Democrats are playing with fire. Jim, thank you very much for that call. Just my opinion. 617-266-6868 is the number. Look, they're targeting an American hero. In fact, let me just play this cut. Mike, how much time left? All right. Dave Rubin on Fox. 10A. Go, Mike.
The guy who's sending the rockets that are saving the astronauts who are caught in the space station, who's catching rockets with big electronic arms, who's building robots that are going to help old people do things they can't do anymore, who's got a thing called Neuralink that's helping quadriplegics play chess. I don't think he's the bad guy in this situation. No. Maybe it's the people wearing kefias literally forcing themselves to puke on someone else's Tesla that are having the issue.
He's completely right. Elon, I'm telling you, is an American hero. And you've got people that are defecating on cars or defecating in their hand and then smearing it on cars. 617-266-6868. I know I always say it. Best audience in the business. Okay. Again, hat tip to Larry. He's the one that sent me the YouTube video. I wanted it confirmed because I've been reading about it, but I want to actually see the video. I have now while we were off air. Please, you got to listen to this. So, remember I talked about the rise of these Tesla terrorists and this anti-Tesla violence that is now gripping the left. So, and I'm noticing a trend. They're targeting older women. More female Tesla drivers, especially older female Tesla drivers. Listen now to this. Person in their Tesla, minding their own business. You can see the video. It's clear. And the person is being followed by this rabid leftist who then rolls down his window. Okay, it's a man with a beard. And he's yelling, you're a fascist, you're a Nazi, F you, F Elon, you should die, etc. And then he starts recording the person in the car. And I think he's recording, I guess to show off to his friends on social media or whatever. Hey, look at me terrorizing this Tesla driver, calling them a Nazi and a fascist and to F off. And Elon should die, and you should die. So he's so upset. You can see how animated he is. He's like yelling, screaming. He's seething at the sight of a Tesla. And so that, the Tesla driver is recording him because the Tesla driver is like, he's going to do something to me. I fear he's going to do something to me. I don't know, ram me, hit me, whatever. And he's on his phone recording the driver in the Tesla to show like, hey, look at how I'm telling this person off. He is so distracted. So he's following the Tesla. The Tesla stops at a red light. Forgive me. Stops at a red light. The car that's chasing the Tesla stops at a red light. Filming the person in the Tesla, yelling, swearing, screaming. And he's still looking at the Tesla as he turns right. And guess what happened? There was a family on the crosswalk. It's a red light. It's a family on the crosswalk. Children were on their bicycles. And that whack job, because he's hot, he's upset, he's angry, he's enraged at the sight of a Tesla, hits the gas pedal as he's driving away from the Tesla and is not paying attention because he's so distracted because his phone is still filming him cursing and screaming and threatening the Tesla driver. He never sees the family. He doesn't see the children on the bikes. He smashes the kids, smashes the bicycles, runs the family over. Runs the family over. And these were young kids. What, 7, 8 years old, tops? They're on their bikes. Now, this is criminal negligence. There's no question. There's no question. There's no question. This guy has got to be arrested on the spot and charge him with, everything. And look, to me, if you're going to drive distracted because you're on your phone or you're filming someone and you're yelling and screaming and cursing at them and threatening them, to me, that should be the equivalent of a DUI. I don't see the difference between you're drunk and under an influence and you're literally so preoccupied with your stupid phone as you're driving, or you're harassing someone and threatening and menacing someone in your car, filming them, and you're literally not paying attention to the road. And you mow down a family and their kids on their bikes? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. And as many commentators have been saying, you look at the thread, I guess CNN would call this a mostly peaceful drive. Driving mostly peacefully. This is what I mean. This is what's happening now across the entire country. I can give you example after example after example. Why? Because the media is egging them on, painting a lie, a false portrait of Elon as a monster, when it's literally the exact opposite. And here, this was in Manhattan, right near a Tesla dealership. So they literally shut down traffic. These idiots lie on the streets like they're putting their bodies on the line. They're shutting down traffic. You got to see the signs. Please, don't take my word for it. Okay? New York Post has a great coverage of this in their latest papers. Holding up signs, kill Elon, murder Elon, assassinate Elon, save democracy. And there's a picture of Elon with his head in a crossfire. In the crosshair. Forgive me. In the crosshairs. I.e., take a rifle and shoot him in the head. And here it is. They're just talking. So here is a New York State Senator, Brad Royalman Siegel. And that's where all these signs, it's a sea of signs calling for Elon to be murdered. This is Royalman Siegel egging this crowd on. Democrat, by the way. State senator. Egging the crowd on. We've got to get Elon. Roll cut 7, Mike. Cut 7, Mike.
The Assembly member and I are introducing legislation this week to make sure that Elon Musk has the same scrutiny as he says he's applying to the rest of the federal government.
He's a private citizen. What are you investigating him for? He's a private citizen. What are you investigating him for? What? What did he do wrong? What did Tesla do wrong? What have they done wrong? Here's one more. New York Assembly member Mika Lasher. Again, Democrat. Roll cut 7A. Mike.
Are they creating the jobs that they said they would? Are they making the investments in the state of New York that they're obligated to do? And if they aren't, this contract will be canceled and Elon Musk will be evicted.
Yeah! First of all, they have to now what? They have to open a factory in New York? What? Okay, this is from 781. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470, and the text line is on fire. 781. Jeff, would you agree that a majority of Tesla owners / drivers are Democrats? And if that's true, aren't Democrats now targeting fellow Democrats? You're a genius, 781. Yes, I think there's no question. I mean, it may be changing now with, conservatives starting to buy more Teslas. For example, my next car is going to be a Mazda. Okay, I've been to the dealership. I'm telling you, I love their cars. But I'm open to maybe down the road, if, Grace wants a Tesla, or I would be open to buying a Tesla. Why? Only because I hate to see what they're doing to Teslas and to Elon. Almost like a form of political identification on my part. I mean, I hear they're excellent cars, don't get me wrong, but, I'm not an EV guy, never have been an EV guy. I love fossil fuels. I love a gas-powered car. That's just me. But after what they're doing to Elon and Tesla, honestly, I'm like, screw you. I'll buy a Tesla so I can see what's changed within me, so I can imagine what it's doing to other conservatives as well. But long story short, this is where I think, again, the hand of God. What they're doing now with this Tesla terrorism, and that's what it is terrorism, with this rabid, virulent anti-Tesla, anti-Elon campaign, is they're going to drive even more Democrats into our arms. More Democrats now are going to vote for Trump or support MAGA, and support the Republican Party. So ironically, all they're doing now is eating their own. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. This is from Raymond on Messenger. And please, I want all of you to hear this, okay? Because this is my fear. And I know Trump's team is listening. I hope somebody relays this, all kidding aside, to Pam Bondi, the DOJ, and the FBI, okay? To Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Because this is what's going to happen. Jeff, my wife was standing outside her truck talking to a girlfriend at a restaurant in Salem, New Hampshire, and just happened to be parked next to a Tesla Cybertruck. And some guy showed up, started screaming at her, at my wife, dropping F-bombs and yelling F Elon. It wasn't even her car. We don't own Teslas. So how long before someone is seriously hurt? We need Bondi to actually do something about this, not just go on TV and talk about it. And let me tell you what's going to happen. Okay, you can hold me to this. Not only, and we've already seen it now, Tesla drivers are being assaulted. Okay, we're already seeing that. No, here's what's going to happen. Someone's going to park their car, like Raymond's wife, a truck in this case, right next to a Cybertruck or a Tesla, or whatever, okay? Tesla car or Tesla Cybertruck. And, you're talking to someone, and they're going to assume, just because you're in between a car and the Tesla, that the Tesla's yours. And so someone who doesn't even own a Tesla is going to get, if they're lucky, physically assaulted, beaten black and blue, get their face punched in, as happened to that poor 61-year-old woman in Flagstaff, Arizona, or God forbid, killed. Either lit on fire, burned to death, because that's their weapon of choice now, is to douse people or douse cars in flames, or, just keep punching the person until they're dead. or hitting them with an object or a pipe or a wrench or a baseball bat or whatever. You have now roving individuals, mobs, who are just exploding at people everywhere on the streets simply for owning or driving a Tesla. Or they think they're owning or driving a Tesla. 617-266-6868. And please, just stand back objectively, okay? You always ask yourself, how could the Nazis have seized power? How could the communists have seized power? Look at how public opinion can be so easily manipulated. The snap of a finger. They're not going after, Ford pickup trucks, gas-powered cars. They loved Elon. Until 15 minutes ago, they loved Elon. They loved him. He was, oh my God, he was deified on the left for years. Tesla was a great liberal car, a progressive car. It's going to save the planet, fight climate change. Elon's the future. They loved him. They loved the car. They loved the brand. They loved electric vehicles. They wanted to mandate that we all buy electric vehicles. Almost buy a Tesla. I know there are other EVs, but basically Tesla was the top dog. So basically, almost buy a Tesla. If you love planet Earth, if you love Mother Earth, if you want to save us from all dying, if you love humanity, buy a Tesla. And God bless Elon. We worship at the feet of Elon. And now, like this, he's become public enemy number one. He's the devil. The sight of him, his name, the mere mention of it, the sight of a Tesla, and it just triggers him. It sets him off like rabid wild dogs, like a pack of wolves, jackals. That shows you how easily people can be controlled, brainwashed, manipulated. It really doesn't take much. And remember, it reminds me of what happened, if you remember, under COVID, how they turned the jabbed against the unjabbed. And how they be, if you didn't wear a mask, you remember, they're yelling, they're screaming, they're shouting, they're going nuts, basically kill them. Fire them, have them lose their jobs. Don't ever let them get out of the house. Arrest them, hang them. Do you remember that? Or, force everyone to take the jab. Treat them like, they're lepers, literally like pariahs. And just blindly follow and obey and believe whatever the establishment, elite, corporate media tells them. Well, now they've gone from masks and the jabs and locking everything down and giving up all their rights and freedoms. Okay, one just very quick exclamation point to what I said before we went to break. Many of you are emailing the Kuhner man, texting the Kuhner man. Jeff, you're not comparing Elon to Jesus. No, of course not. That's blasphemous. No. My point is, it's just a commentary on human nature. Again, super quick, if you remember. It's like Elon, right? He was a hero. They loved him. The left loved him. And then all of a sudden, they just turned on him with a vengeance. Why? Because he endorsed Trump? Because he's exposing all the waste, fraud, and abuse of hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars? And all of a sudden now you're out to murder him, kill him, destroy one of the greatest American car companies ever? An American hero by any objective standard? And if you remember the story, very quick, as where it's during Lent and Easter is around the corner. Jesus enters Jerusalem the week before he's crucified. And remember, he's met with adoring crowds. This is factually accurate, whether, the Son of God and the resurrection, and that's religious faith. But I'm talking about pure historical reality. You know, there was Jesus, there was the story of Jesus, all that is true. So whether you think he was the son of God, whether you think he was just a great prophet, whether you just think he was an historical figure, whatever, he enters Jerusalem and they love him. The crowd is waving. They love him. He's a great prophet. Many believe he's the son of God. They practically deify him. And then within a week, he's being crucified. And Pontius Pilate, who is actually a very interesting character, Pontius Pilate's wife says, don't crucify him. You're going to turn him into a martyr. Don't do that. Whatever you do, don't do it. And Pontius Pilate is like, yeah, but the mob is screaming for his head. Like, I'm a Roman governor. I got to run this place. And then he even confronts the mob. And he says to them, I don't understand you people. Just 5 days ago, you were lionizing the guy. Just 5 days ago, many of the very same people now calling for him to be nailed to a cross, you were saying, no, he's great, he's wonderful, he's, whatever, the son of God or a great prophet or whatever. And now you expect me to kill, like, what has he done? Now you want me to kill him? And so to get out of it, he has that Roman tradition of, okay, I will grant clemency to one person. Okay, so I've got two criminals. I've got Jesus, who's now being charged with all these crimes, and Barabbas. And I'll never forget this. My grandfather always told me this. Never forget the story of Barabbas. My grandfather said it's one of the most important stories in the entire Bible because it captures a fundamental truth about people, about the mob, like mobs as in groups of people, and about human nature. He said, remember this. Pontius Pilate was going to free Jesus. I know he ends up crucifying him, but he's the one that he was eventually going to free him. And he says, look, I'll offer you to the crowd. You pick. Jesus, who, whatever you think about him, he's the guy who preached peace, turned the other cheek, no violence, no hatred. Love, love your fellow neighbor. Love your fellow neighbor as God loves you. So here's a guy who never did anything to anybody. Wouldn't hurt a fly. Or Barabbas, a convicted thief, a murderer, literally a convicted murderer, a lifelong criminal, really a scumbag, scum of the earth. And the crowd, not just the high priests, the crowd, the people yelled and screamed, give us Barabbas, give us Barabbas, as in free Barabbas. And Pontius Pilate, he literally shakes his head, and what he apparently said to his wife was, I don't understand these people. Okay, you want the criminal, you want the murderer over Jesus? Okay, I'll free him and he's got to be crucified. And that's when he famously puts his hands in the water and he washes his hands. And now he thinks he's washed his hands of the whole thing. And hence the very famous saying, you wash your hands of this. And poor Jesus is crucified. An innocent man. Really, a symbol, an embodiment of suffering goodness in an evil, wicked world. Now, again, I'm not comparing Elon to Jesus. Please don't get me wrong. Or Trump or whatever. My point is a very simple one. You welcomed him. You loved him. Just 6 months ago. For years and years and years, you couldn't get enough of this guy. He votes against you in one election and starts uncovering all of this corruption of your money, taxpayer money. And all of a sudden now, you don't just want to burn his company to the ground. You're literally calling like this, give us Barabbas, like kill him, crucify him, crucify Elon, kill him. Do you understand? Kill him. And anybody who drives this product, i.e. a supporter of Elon, like a Christian, a supporter of Jesus, persecute him, throw him to the lions. Nothing has changed. Human nature never changes. Technology changes, circumstances change, forms of government change, but human nature always remains the same. And that's what you're watching now. This is evil on a very fundamental, I believe almost biblical level. The hatred for Trump, the hatred for Elon, the hatred for America, the hatred for us, for MAGA, the hatred for everything that is good and decent in our society. But that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. Derek in Boston. Thanks for holding, Derek, and welcome.
How you doing?
Hi, Derek.
How are you this morning?
Very
good. Good, great. The call has been great, man. It's been awesome. And I had the day off so I could really listen to you all day. I just want to say this, a couple of things. Trump know what he was against when it came to George Soros. That's why I believe he chose Matt Gaetz as his attorney general, because Matt Gaetz would have just unleashed hell, and he had nothing to lose in his own personal life with everything he was going through. And I believe once the rhinos who wouldn't stand with him in the Senate, they just threw a little wrench, and we ended up with Pam Bondi, because I know that wasn't Trump's first choice. And George Soros been playing 3 to 4 dimensional chess, starting with the Department of Education, and the indoctrination of the youth. And I say this on a personal note, that these kids and the youth and those who sleep in the basement of their mom's house are more like sleeper cells. They're activated when George Soros want to uproot and disturb things that's going on that we know that would be needed to be fixed. And all, it wasn't, how long was it? Like maybe 20 years ago, that same crowd was going around scratching up and damaging SUVs because of gas and oil. They didn't want us to have SUVs. They wanted us to go to electric vehicles and everything else. Now the same crowd turn around and damaging EVs. And I got to say this too, that when you look at our politicians, a lot of them are bought by George Soros' money. And I had to give credit to Breitbart, because they just released that there's a lot of Congress men and women sitting there in D.C. who have bought Tesla stock. And it dawned on me the other day when Tim Walz said he was happy when, Tesla stock was dropping down. I believe they wanted to do a backdoor, buy up the stock so they can force or even have a 50-50 with Elon, for the shares, and either force him out or just try to uproot Tesla, by being shareholders. I just think, George Soros is all over the place. And if Matt Gaetz had stayed and, was able to become attorney general, I believe Trump would have unleashed hell, not just with the education department and not with the court, the judges and the attorney generals, but also, oh my God, I'm losing my train of thought.
You're making an excellent point. You mean, and with the DOJ, the Department of Justice. No, Derek, you're making superb points right across the spectrum. Let me ask you this point blank. Do you think it's still early? I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I'm starting to agree with a lot of people in this audience. I always see her on Fox. Man, is she always on Fox. And she gives a great interview. She's very good. She's articulate, she's telegenic, she's punchy, she's concise. She talks a really good game. I'm just not seeing any action. I see a lot of talk. Okay, I'd say a little bit action. I mean, Trent Durarog was being arrested. MS-13 is being rounded up. It's not like she's doing nothing. But I'd like to see a lot more action. My question to you, Derek, Is Pam Bondi now a mistake? Was naming her and appointing and confirming her to be the Attorney General of the United States, is she now becoming another Jeff Sessions? Is it now, do you believe, a mistake?
I don't think so. And the only reason I say that is because Matt Gaetz has nothing to lose. He was already part of the system. And Pat Bondi come from Florida. And being Attorney General down there was a small, even though it was a big state, but she had the resources just in the state of Florida with the governor and the legislators. She had the ATF, the FBI, and all those local on her side. But when she got to the federal level, Pam Bondi don't have that cachet of support like she did in Florida. Now, it's taken time for her to weed out her and Cash and Bongino, and I want to say Kristi Noem, but she's too busy, doing photo ops. But she has her hands full, and I believe it would take time. But Trump don't have time. He only has these 4 years to make a dent in the system. And it's going to take her probably almost 2 years to show something that, what she's capable of. And that's why it's important that 2026 election, we have to take more in the House and the Senate so that Trump can have a big majority of legislators to get his agenda through.
Derek, really thoughtful call. Thank you very much for that call, Derek. Well, they're going to try to block him at the midterms. And if you're wondering why is Trump going on hyper speed, warp speed, because he's operating under the assumption that he may lose the House, either the House or the Senate, but most likely the House in 2026. So he's thinking, I don't have 4, I got 2 years. Because once the Democrats take back the House, if they should, it's going to be impeach, 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 defund, defund, defund. He's going to be fighting Congress for 2 years. So that's why he wants to move now. The sooner the better, and on every single front. So if you're wondering, well, Jeff, why is he so impatient? Why the rush? That's the rush. And look, you're right. He doesn't have 3.5 years. And that's why Pam Bondi's got to rev it up. She's got to really ramp it up. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree. Mel in New York. Thanks for holding, Mel, and welcome.
Oh, yes. Good morning, Jeff. How are you today?
Good. I'm battling a bit of a cold, scratchy, sore throat, but other than that, Mel, I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking.
Yes, sir, Jeff. Warm honey, lemon, and a little bit of scotch. I think that'll knock it right out of you, brother, in about 2 days. But anyway, I got to agree with your last caller, Derek. I believe his name was. Trump only has a shelf life of only 4 years. Now cut down to what, as a young man said, 3.5. Pam Bondi is definitely a mistake in regards to her position. I emailed the White House the other week about her and Cash Patel. When are they going to start showing signs of a pulse? Because it's getting, they're not doing anything as far as I'm concerned. There should be a line of people with handcuffs on them that have been in our government with Comey, Clapper, Stroke, and a whole bunch of other people that has caused a numerous amount of pain on this country for their traitorous communist views of what they think that we should be punished under. But I had spoken with Sandy earlier, and I believe it was in Manhattan, in one of these large cities. There was a Tesla owner and driver. Well, a Tesla owner got a bumper sticker on his car. It says, "I bought this Tesla before Elon went crazy." So, the Democrats, like you said, they're eating their own, and they're fearful. But I think with all with all the punishment that they'll have to endure, they're not going to change their stripes. They'll still vote Democrat. They'll still take all the punishment that their party wants to dish out, and not only us but them too. And they just don't see it. I don't understand why they don't see the criminality and the authoritative position of their party. Republicans, all we want to do is be left alone, be able to live free, be responsible, go to work, raise a family, pay a mortgage, pay off your home, have a car in the driveway, the American dreams. But the Democrats, they don't want you to have that. I mean, the government, the Democrat side of the government, and the rhinos too, because they're bought and paid for. They're Democrats in Republican clothes. And, you got a good idea who they are. Jim Jordan, he's all talk, no action. He wants to send strongly worded letters across the aisle and this and knowing that nothing's going to become of it. And, Mike Johnson, he's on the fence too, man. He's kind of like, trying to play the part of Mr. Conservative, but wants to be, on that dividing line to wherever the wind blows, he's going to tilt either way. But, I just don't. And what am I paying taxes for? What do I get out of my taxes being paid? I don't see the benefit
that's a great
of
question.
having to pay the IRS.
No, really. I mean, Mel, that's, outside of the fact that it's criminal, right, not to pay your taxes, it's illegal. And we know when we peasants break the law, boy, they drop the hammer. Then, then they really, they're all law and order then. When it's the politicians, not so much. When they commit crimes, leave it alone. But no, look, many people are asking that question, Mel. What do I get for my tax money? Really? We now find out they're stealing it. They're wasting it. They're embezzling it. They're siphoning it off. It's scandal after scandal after scandal. And no one's being held accountable. No one is going to jail. And, now look, I can just say this. My fear is, if you look at these rallies, if you watch the videos or read these stories, here, I'll just give you an example, okay? This was one of these anti-Tesla, these Tesla takedown rallies. And this one was in New York. And so they interviewed the people that were there, one of the lead organizers. And this is what they said. This is what they believe. Quote unquote, we live in a fascist state. So they're now convinced that under the Trump presidency with Elon at Doge, we are now living in Nazi Germany. This is now Nazi, I'm serious. This is, according to them, Nazi Germany 2.0. And then they're being told by these Democrats, Jamie Raskin, member of Congress, one of the people that sat on that fraud of a committee, the Unselect committee, okay, on January 6th. He's been doing interviews all weekend. We're several months away from losing everything. We're going to lose our freedoms. We're going to lose the Bill of Rights. We're going to lose our Constitution. We're going to lose our democracy, according to him. We're going to lose our country. Now, when you start that kind of inflammatory, reckless, irresponsible, false, hysterical rhetoric, you're going to get people killed. So they really have convinced many Democrats, this is Nazi Germany, which shows you how stupid and insane these people are. But not only that it's Nazi Germany, but that it's going to, basically in 3 months, this is when Trump becomes Hitler, or this is now their new script. I'm telling you, it's like out of a novel. They're now pushing the fantasy that Elon is going to overthrow Trump. You're hearing this a lot. Social media, many Democrat supporters, if you press them, this is now their new conspiracy theory, that Elon is really the real Hitler and that Trump is the fake Hitler. He wants to be Hitler, but he doesn't have the guts to be Hitler. But Elon, no. That's the real Führer. That's the real Hitler. So that Elon is going to overthrow Trump in a coup and then create a Nazi white supremacist apartheid state. Why? Because he's from South Africa originally. I swear to you. I swear to you. And, you know, of course, because he's white and he's from South Africa, he somehow wants to restore and rehabilitate apartheid. 617-266-6868 is the number. So far throughout this show, I'd say it's almost 50-1 against Pam Bondi. I mean, we're not really talking about Pam Bondi. We're talking about, as Senator Ted Cruz, by the way, just came out saying these attacks on Tesla dealerships are clearly domestic terrorism. To me, that's been the focus of the entire show. If there's a theme, that's the major theme. But many of you, Kuhner country, are not happy with Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. And this is what Marianne wrote on Messenger. And I'd like to know if you agree or disagree. Good morning, Jeff. Well, good morning to you, Marianne. Hope you had a great weekend with your family. I hate to say this. Marianne, by the way, lives in Florida. I hate to say this because Pam Bondi was my Attorney General here in Florida. And she was great here. But I think I've mentioned this to you before. She's out of her league. Right now, all she's doing is auditioning to be a Fox News contributor. I think some of what people say about her has gone to her head, especially about her looks and her abilities. She was very able here in Florida. She's not able in the federal government. And I'm sorry to say that. I don't think we're going to see anything of substance coming from her. I don't know if she's afraid. I don't believe she is. I do believe, however, she's out of her league. I don't know how else to say it, but she's been a huge disappointment so far. Well, Derek in Boston, maybe a couple callers ago, a very thoughtful caller, smart caller, said, you know, Jeff, she was very effective. There's no question. That's why, to be honest, initially, I mean, I was over the moon with Pam Bondi because I saw what she did in Florida. I mean, the woman was she was a one-woman machine. I mean, she was a phenomenal Florida Attorney General. But as Derek in Boston said, yes, but Jeff, remember, she had a Republican governor. She had a Republican state house, a Republican state senate. She had the local FBI cooperating with her. In other words, she had a huge network, an architecture of support that you don't have in Washington. Instead, you have the opposite. You've got the deep state. You've got this federal Leviathan. You've got enemy saboteurs, opposition every step of the way. So it's constant war. You don't have that kind of support. It's the opposite. It's like, on the front line of trench warfare, legal trench warfare. And so I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Trump is going to give her more time, and she's going to get more time. But many of you now are starting to become impatient. And many of you are texting, messaging me, emailing me, saying, Jeff, I'm sorry, but she's turning into a disappointment. This is a comment from 508. And I think it really sums up concisely what many of you are texting, emailing, and messaging me. Jeff, Pam Bondi is like the Jim Jordan of attorney generals. Both talk a great game and can get you excited about their ideas, but nothing happens, ever. 617-266-6868. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Great comparison. The Democrats chose Joe Barabbas, another thief, over our political savior, President Trump. No question, it is a great comparison. Okay, now, we in Kuhner country fully understand the Democratic Party is the enemy within. Recruiting in the military was down under the leadership of the Democratic Party. The leaders in the Democratic Party, there is no God, family is under attack, and the country be damned. Greed and power is their God, family, and country. The Democratic Party response to dead patriotic Americans in Benghazi and Afghanistan, what difference does it make? And I'll repeat that. What difference does it make to them? None whatsoever. And you have a home in the Democratic Party if you are a left-wing, ungrateful American, if you believe in government as your friend, if you are influenced by the left-stream media and the panic peddlers, if you accept being dictated to by an overpowering central government, if you have no problem living off the production of others, you are the useful idiots. In Massachusetts, we are infested with Democratic Party useful idiots. There's no question about that, okay? Liberalism, without question, is a mental disorder. The evidence in Massachusetts is overwhelming. It's in plain sight every day. I see it every day in the people I communicate with. Although I don't respond, because as I've said before, if I was to think that I could change their mind, then I would need the psychiatrist.
Russ, I want to ask you this and get your take. Eric on Messenger, but he's not the only one, but I think he said it the most directly and in the most cogent manner, said, Jeff, the reason why the left hates Elon, because Elon really is a modern-day Paul Revere, except he's not warning us about the British, obviously, but he's warning us about the globalists. He's warning us about the swamp. He's warning us about the corrupt establishment and how much power, how much control, and how much wealth they've stolen. Do you think there's, in other words, do you believe he is, in some ways, the Paul Revere of the 21st century?
Jeff, he is. And let's put it this way. We know the history of what happened to many of the people that signed the Declaration of Independence, okay? And Elon Musk realizes the risk that he took, first of all, endorsing Trump and then going on this crusade to save the taxpayers' money. There's no question about that, okay? But what's really crazy, it's the schizophrenic idiocy of liberalism in the Democratic Party, okay? How can you go by honoring someone, okay, that created an automobile supposedly to save the planet, okay? And then not only that, engages in humanitarian things over and over again, bringing back those stranded astronauts that were stuck up there because the idiots in our government didn't know enough how to bring them home, okay? You think of all of that, okay? And yet they come out against them. And why are they? Because they're influenced by the scumbags in the media. They trust the filthy, rotten, no-good Democratic Party. And, Jeff, I want to tell you something. I've hated the Democratic Party since what they did to us in Vietnam, okay? It is...
I agree with you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, I want to read this text, and then there's huge developments on the Elon front. Please, whatever you're doing, you've got to listen to this. But just to finish off the point, because, look, there's clearly now something at work here. Jeff, by the way, 617. You can text us 70470, 70470, 617. Jeff, this hatred among the left can be attributed to mass formation psychosis. They have developed a hive mentality. Even though it makes no sense, they all march to the same drum. That is very true. It really is like a hive mentality. And it doesn't matter how insane, how ludicrous, how preposterous, how irrational, honestly, how false it is. It just doesn't matter. Like, just take Russia collusion. It was the most insane conspiracy theory I ever heard in my life. And they just all ran with it, like bees in a hive. Again, mass formation psychosis. Or now that Elon wants to overthrow Trump and erect a Nazi white supremacist dictatorship. And when you say, what's your evidence? He's from South Africa. That's it. Like, literally, that's it. Like, wee-oo. Okay. Elon is now asking the question, who is funding and organizing all of these paid protests? And the answer increasingly, as we talked about earlier, was George Soros. And this is now the danger that Elon is in. At his rally in Wisconsin, he revealed that he now receives, listen to this, 17 to 18,000 death threats a day. Not a year, not a month, not even a week. Mike, honestly, I don't think Trump receives, honestly, he gets a ton of death threats, but I don't even think he gets 17 to 18,000 death threats a day. A day. And this may be the ultimate reason why. Please, you got to listen to this. This should be now the biggest story in the country. And we'll see if we'll talk about it tomorrow. But at least I'd be remiss if I didn't at least mention it to all of you. In his presentation yesterday, along with his Doge team, Elon Musk found, remember all those social security numbers of everyone over the age, of 100, 110, 120, 130? We're talking 15 million people. And everyone was wondering, like, why? Why are these people still counted as alive? Elon and his team have tracked it down. They were given to illegal aliens. So the reason why someone born, I'm not kidding, 150 years ago, is still considered alive in the Social Security Administration database, it's not just that they're getting checks, okay, which is naked fraud, but they were given deliberately to illegal aliens to give them a Social Security number. And then, as Elon showed, they went to vote. Elon Musk has now definitively proved that the Democrats under Biden, under Mayorkas, under Merrick Garland, deliberately let in millions and millions of illegal aliens, and then were given fake, or I guess real, Social Security numbers, but they're fake in the sense that, these are people that are, been dead for God knows how long. People who are still alive, even though they're 120, 130, 140, 150 years old. So they're taking the Social Security numbers of dead people, claiming they're still alive, and then giving those exact Social Security numbers to illegals and non-citizens so they can vote. And I don't mean theoretically can vote, who actually have voted. They track the Social Security number to whether that person registered to vote and voted, and they found them. In 2024, Elon found 2.1 million illegal aliens getting these phony Social Security numbers. 2.1 million just in 2024 alone. Now, I want to read this. And this should be literally the biggest story in the country. It's from Miranda Devine. And as you know, she's a really good columnist at the New York Post. She was the one who essentially broke the Hunter Biden laptop story. So she's not just a very good columnist, she's a superb investigative reporter who combines reporting, original reporting, accurate reporting, with her opinions. Here is what she wrote on X, okay? Please, you got to hear this. What I just explained to you now. This is the biggest fraud in the history of this country. Biden, Mayorkas, Kamala Harris, Javier Becerra, remember he was HHS secretary under Biden, Antony Blinken, Merrick Garland, and whoever else orchestrated this needs to be prosecuted. Elon has given us proof of what we always suspected, that Biden deliberately brought in 10 to 20 million illegals to vote in our elections and turn the country permanently blue. Elon found illegals have registered to vote and that they did vote. Talk about rampant voter fraud. That's why the Dems and their judicial proxies are fighting Trump and Tom Homan so hard. This calls for a special counsel. And Miranda is pushing for Ken Paxton, the tough pro-Trump attorney general in Texas. This calls for a special counsel, Ken Paxton, for instance, with special powers granted by Congress or the attorney general Pam Bondi to hold selected public hearings on national security grounds so we can hear these Biden saboteurs testify under oath at risk of jail for perjury or contempt. Now you know why they have to destroy Elon Musk. Now you know why they have to turn him into Hitler 2.0. Because Elon has done something that not even, and I love Trump, I think he's an outstanding president, don't get me wrong, but he's done something that even Trump hasn't done. Forensic proof. Forensic proof. Social security numbers tied to illegal aliens, tied to them voting and registering to vote. It's the proverbial smoking gun. That's why Elon Musk must be demonized, vilified, and destroyed. I'm choosing my words now very carefully. I am very afraid for Elon Musk's life. I don't want anything to happen to him. Quite the opposite. We, my friends, have been vindicated again. Trump said the 2020 election was stolen, that there was rampant voter fraud, that illegals were voting at record levels, and Elon now has the receipts to prove it. And just one final line, because I want to go to the phone lines. You know how they nabbed him? How Elon's people nabbed him? They were giving these social security numbers. Again, people 120, 130, 140 years old, but they're not dead. They're still considered alive. As they were registering illegals to vote. It was part of their registration drive. So this goes all the way to Joe Biden. To Mayorkas, to Kamala Harris, to Merrick Garland, to all of them. All of them. Heads should roll. And I agree with Miranda Devine 1,000%. Now is the time to appoint a special counsel. Now is the time to crack heads. This is the scandal of the century. No question now. I mean, you're never going to get a better opportunity now than this. And that's why now the left views Elon as their mortal foe. He's now exposed their voter fraud machine and tied it directly to illegals, and Biden allowing so many to pour into our country. We were right the whole time, Kuhner country. Judson, is it Judson? Judson in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Judson, and welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Long-time listener.
Welcome.
I want to address the frustration I hear from a number of your listeners about the primal hatred for Trump and Elon Musk, et cetera. And I've long heard your catchphrase, and it's a very good catchphrase, that liberalism is a mental disorder. And I long thought that Democrats were either people who wanted something from government, for example, NGOs, teachers, civil servants, etc., or people who are ignorant of the facts. But I revised that second category as being too simplistic, and I think people generally need a rudder. They need to, for example, a moral standard, and Judaism and Christianity, for example, provide that. They provide an idea of what's considered a good person and is virtuous. And if you combine that with a very simple West Point model, duty, honor, country, that provides a rudder for a lot of people. But if you're of a more secular or more self-centered nature, you don't have that. So my revised thinking is that second category of people are people who believe they're good people because they are liberal. And conversely, because they are liberal, well, they're good people because they're liberal, but they're liberal because they are good people. So it sort of swings around on itself. Thus, they have to discard any facts that would counter their beliefs, because to do so would mean that they were not virtuous and good people. So one way to escape that risk of a crack in their self-identification of being virtuous and a good person is, in many cases, become a single-issue voter. I'm for women's rights. I'm for this. I'm for that. So by being a single-issue voter, they can kind of discard everything else. So that provides a little enclave to protect their self-identity. There are other people who they view themselves as virtuous because by viewing themselves as virtuous, you can view people who disagree with you as not only wrong, but evil. And if the person's evil, then whatever you do is justified. And that's why they trivialize the horrors of the true Nazis by calling anybody who dissents with them as Nazis.
Oh, brilliant.
And
Judson, absolutely brilliant. I'm telling you, absolutely brilliant. And look, Alexander Solzhenitsyn laid this out brilliantly in his Gulag Archipelago, and I'll just sum it up. And it's hard to sum up such a brilliant man and what he had to say in 30 seconds, but it goes very much along your point. He said, the thing about communists and Marxists and socialists, and that's what the Democrats are now. That's what so-called liberals are. He said it's a substitute religion. He goes, you have to understand that. And they have the same irrational faith as, say, something a primitive medieval, from primitive medieval times. They define themselves by their politics. It's all consuming. It's existential. It's their God. It's their church. It's everything. And they believe because of this that they are morally superior to anyone else who doesn't believe their faith, in this case, their communism or their Marxism. And they demonize their enemy as being evil and sinners. And to such an evil, that they're so evil that they're like heretics. They must be destroyed. And that's why they're adding now Nazi. You see, they're trivializing the true Nazis. You're completely right. But if you notice now, Elon's a Nazi, Trump's a Nazi, I'm a Nazi, you're a Nazi, we're all Nazis. So that in their mind, well, then burn the car, torch the car, beat them up, shoot them, kill them, do whatever you got to do, because, hey, you're basically killing people that are subhuman. They're evil. They're Nazis. They're heretics. They threaten everything that's good and decent and noble and virtuous, which is our political faith. So when you challenge their faith, if you notice, their reaction is very similar to Islamic fundamentalists.